All right, we are live. Hello, welcome to our Downey Unified School District joint venture with Bea Group. We are doing a virtual internship, and today, this is our last showcase of this week. It's augmented virtual reality deep dive showcase. All of our interns are from the Downey Unified School District, and they are juniors who they started in the program when they were juniors. Now they are seniors, and so it has been 6 weeks of a paid internship. The first 2 weeks, they worked on, we did onboarding with what it's like to work in a virtual environment. We had just some leadership development. We had communication mastery. Every Monday, they've had social justice and equity workshops. And we have been so fortunate to have industry professionals who have been leading deep dive experiences for the last 4 weeks. And so for this one, AR, VR deep dive, we have Kwaku and Liz here, and I wanted to bring them on to share with us what they've been working with the interns on, and then they will introduce the interns who will be each showcasing what they worked on. So hi, Kwaku. Hi, Liz.
Hey, how's it going,
Hey,
June? Liz, do you want to kick us off?
sure. In our deep dive, the interns learned about the design thinking process and about the climate crisis. Each group picked a UN Sustainable Development Goal, or SDG, as you'll hear them refer to it as. Through the design thinking process, they established a global problem and came up with their own solution. And then in VR, they created interactive environments to show these solutions. And Paco will kind of talk about how we did it week by week.
Great, thank you. So for the first week, we really sort of dug deep and really reintroduced or introduced the interns to the design process through a process that our friends at the Stanford D School have sort of pioneered around introducing working professionals and students to design thinking, but design in general. And then within our second week, we went further into that, where we sort of did a little bit of work with this really famous TED Talk by this gentleman by the name of Simon Sinek, who talks about the importance of understanding the why when you're designing or creating products. And we also had the opportunity to engage the interns in a future design activity where they had the ability to reflect on their ancestors and then also think about how they could work to become better ancestors to their future relations or people that they would care about within the future, and their, the future versions of them, their friends, daughter, or their son, that sort of thing. And then as we progressed, we had the wonderful opportunity to connect with Samira from the UN, specifically from UNDP, actually really went into a lot of detail around, first of all, the idea of climate change versus climate crisis, and how that functions for us as a society, for them as students, for all of us as beings, that sort of thing. And then following that, we were lucky enough to have Sylvain Joly, who is one of the creators and the chief designer at the company Zoe, who created the software that the students worked in, to come in and help the students get set up with using Zoe, and then also was on call and would jump into our sessions to help the kids as far as, sorry, I'm calling you kids and I shouldn't be doing that, to help the interns as far as the technical side of what they were working on. And then for the final phase, it was really just students working with their partners and creating the magic that you're going to see in a few minutes. And Liz, Sylvain, and myself, and our wonderful intern co-designer, Marcella, who can't be here today, all of us sort of supporting the students, interns, with their work. And so I know a big part of this today is about the student work and their reflections, but Liz and I want to share a little bit like a really quick reflection about what really resonated with us, and sort of not only just reaffirmed why we do this type of work, but the joy that we receive through this process. And so for me, it was really the future design activity and hearing the different ways all of these interns connected to their interns based upon who they are as people, based upon their ethnicity, and then how they were able to connect that to what they would want to see for the future and also connect that to climate change. It is really powerful, and we tend to underestimate students' ability to do that level of complex thinking. And these fine interns are not people to underestimate, but instead people to really be excited about as far as guiding us into the future. Liz.
The thing that I was most impressed with was the solutions and the products that you guys came up with. We gave you a very broad topic, climate crisis, and you guys narrowed it down and were really, really thoughtful in your creation to create these interactive environments. And I was so impressed with how thoughtful and creative you guys were in this process.
That's awesome. All right, so with no further ado, you guys didn't, if you're watching YouTube or if you're logged into Zoom, you didn't come here, Liz and I speak. Let's kick it off with our first group. Previously, the interns know their orders, so the first group, we're just gonna let you guys take it away as soon, and just one quick disclaimer, first group, as soon as they're done, we want the second group to jump in right afterwards. And for those of you who aren't in the Zoom, you're watching YouTube and you're entering comments, we're going to wait until the very end. So you can be entering your comments, and then at the very end, we'll have the interns answer your questions. So first group, take it away.
Right. So hi, I'm Brian Silva.
Hi, my name is Adrian Hernandez.
And today we're going to be presenting our virtual reality experience centered around one of the 17 SDGs, as Kwaku mentioned earlier. And our specific SDG was climate action. However, that wasn't the main problem we wanted to focus on. We wanted to dig a little bit deeper into the climate action and what caused it. So we focused mainly around fossil fuels specifically. And the reason we focused around this specific SDG was because we both believed the climate crisis and climate action is something that affects all of us everywhere around the world. And even though we might not realize it, it has an impact on every single living thing on the planet Earth. And we feel like this is something that we need to fix now and that we can start fixing now. And so we wanted to get involved in this process of solving the climate crisis. Now, as I mentioned before, fossil fuels was our main problem. However, we needed to figure out a specific problem and start narrowing it down into what exactly we wanted to solve and how our solutions will look like. So we began by asking questions like what causes greenhouse gases? And we realized it was fossil fuels. Why are people still using fossil fuels? Why haven't we switched to renewable energy yet? And from all these questioning and all the answers we received from these, we realized that our main problem we wanted to solve was how can we get people to start using less fossil fuels? How can we get the consumers to stop using fossil fuels?
When talking about this project under SDG, it is important to mention that the design process had a lot to do with it. After finding out the problem, we needed to think of a possible solution. We came up with many solutions, from having people buy electric cars to creating laws that force people and companies to recycle waste products. And from a variety of solutions, one that stood out to us the most was simply just taking public transportation. The reason for that is because it can be done easily and in an affordable way.
So going off of this idea of public transportation, we decided to make a game where the user has to choose between private and public transportation options, and where they have the freedom to kind of choose their own path. And now we made it so that based off of the options that they choose, based on public or private transportation, they will see a different result at the end and see a different outcome. And this is to teach the user that their actions have consequences on the world around them. Now, we're going to show you a video of our game in action. And it's important to note that whenever there's a choice, whenever a choice is presented to the user, the screen will split into two different screens, each showing the different choices the users can make.
So your tasks are simply ordered by steps, so that way when adventuring around this town, it's not confusing and you're able to know what you're supposed to do and know where you're supposed to go as well. In the beginning, you start off by being welcomed and outside of your home. Your task is then to go to work. You are given two options that you can go to work in. You can either go to work in your car, or you can go to work by taking the public train. In this case, a public train would be a better alternative because although it emits fossil fuels, it can carry more people than those people just taking their cars, which altogether would emit more fossil fuels, and that would be worse for the environment. Once arriving to the Pizza Parlor, you see some information that is given for both transportations. You are then given directions to your job at the Pizza Parlor, and you are told to head inside to make a delivery. And then when looking outside and then walking inside, you see a lot of details, and that's because me and Brian wanted the setting to look like it has come to life. And this is simply just by us adding chairs, plants, and lights inside. And then once you arrive to a garage, you are told to make one of two options. Those options being riding a bike or driving a car to make your delivery. The bike, in this case, would be a better alternative because it emits no fossil fuels compared to the car emitting some fossil fuels. Once you are off the bike and car, you can see more information about those two and how they are both private transportations, but one is a better alternative. You then arrive to the house that you are supposed to make the delivery to, and you do so just by ringing the doorbell. Once you ring the doorbell, the person comes out and simply says thank you.
The next step is to head back home. Now, the user is either presented with a gas-powered bus or an electric cable car. Now, although both of these options are public transportation, the electric cable car is the better option because it produces no fossil fuels since it doesn't run on gasoline. At this point, you might also be wondering how exactly we're having the user be moved in these vehicles. And the way we have it is we just have a box with collision behind the player that just moving forward at a constant rate, as the same rate as the car, and is propelling the user forward, which gives this illusion that they're riding in a vehicle. Now, you might also be wondering why there's so many walls around the place. Now, since this is a 360 and 3D environment that the user is working in, they have the freedom to move wherever they want. However, we have these walls in place to restrict their movement and so that they can only choose their set paths, but we give them enough freedom so that they can choose which transportation option they want to select. Again, as with the other options, we provide a little bit of more information for the user at the end of the ride. And then afterwards, they're told to head inside and turn the TV on. Now, depending on the choices they made on their journey, the TV screen will show something different. Now, if you chose more public transportation over private transportation options, you will be presented with a thriving city using clean energy like solar panels and wind power. However, if you choose more gas-powered and private transportation options, you'll be presented with a screen that shows a ruined city with forest fires and more pollution. Now, after the news is done playing, the wall behind the TV will disappear, revealing a town, which, just like the TV, depending on what options you chose during your journey, it can either show a ruined town with pollution or a clean town with a thriving town with a clean energy. Now, we've reached the very end of the playthrough, and the user is presented with every single option they chose along the way for each of the three options. And they're told, they're given a little explanation as to why their options led to the outcome they see on the screen.
When reflecting back on the work and research I did these past couple of weeks, I noticed that I used to think that climate change was simply just a change in temperature. But now when I think about it, it is more than that. Climate change, or should now be known as climate crisis, due to the severity it has been getting, is causing icebergs to melt, meaning that diseases that have been trapped in there for who knows the amount of years are now being released into our atmosphere. This would mean that we would have no idea of the kind of destruction it can cause. Not only that, but another thing would also be the ocean acidification and how a lot of carbon dioxide being emitted in the air is getting absorbed by the ocean, meaning that for some marine life, their growth rates are decreasing. So when I researched and really thought about it, all of our problems are all connected to each other in some way or shape. I used to think that climate crisis was never able to affect me in any way or form, but when I really think about it, the amount of waste that I throw out might not be as much at first, but later on they tend to add up, causing even more of a bigger problem, making the solution harder to achieve.
Now, the biggest thing that this project has taught me is actually following through the design process can take you a really long way. Now, at first, I wasn't really too familiar with the design process going into this project. Although I did know of the design process and why it's so important, I never understood how exactly to take each step one at a time and actually go through the process. So I always thought the design process was just about brainstorming these solutions that can solve a problem. And I would always just jump straight into trying to get the solutions as soon as possible so that I can keep improving and get the best one. But this project has definitely taught me that the most important step in the design process is actually defining the problem, even before getting to any of the solutions. Now, During this project, we were tasked to dig deeper into our problem. So, for example, we took climate action. We had to ask what causes climate action? Why is this happening? What causes these greenhouse gases? Why are people still using fossil fuels? And just asking these questions and receiving the answer from an expert and doing our own research as well, we were able to come up with a very narrowed down question that we can actually go ahead and solve. So when coming up with the problem, I realized that not only does the problem have to matter, because if the problem doesn't matter in the first place, your solutions won't matter in the end. And you're basically just going through this design process for nothing. But also the problem you need to define has to be narrowed down. Because take, for example, climate action, you can't just go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to solve climate action, because there's a lot of different parts to it. There's fossil fuels, there's waste materials being produced. There's the life, ocean and land life to think about. So there's a lot of different problems when we're talking about the climate crisis as a whole. And so we needed to dig deeper and actually think of one specific aspect of the climate crisis that we wanted to solve, which in our case was getting people to use public transportation over private transportation. And doing this process of digging deeper, I really understood what the design process was and how it's so important, because we're able to not only come up with great solutions that will actually have impact on the world, we're solving the problem that we want to solve that also has an impact on the world and can affect everyone in this environment.
Thank you. That was amazing. All right. Next group, you are up.
Hi, my name is Damon Varla,
I'm Isaiah Cortez.
and this and we have had a project that we've been working on in this virtual reality for the past few weeks, where we tried to focus on, like Brian, a specific topic about climate crisis that to focus on, and the one that we focused on was specifically goal 12, which is responsible consumption and production. And we saw that in more of an energy kind of way and a power usage kind of way. So the app or the game that we are about to show you is meant to represent how how easily this problem can be fixed in our everyday lives. And
Just in, like your own household, this whole simulation is just to show like your own house, how you can help save and conserve energy today and right now.
yeah. So we're gonna show our video of our game, and I will be talking about the premise of it. So you start off here in front of your house, and the whole point of this is to go around, going around your house doing certain things like turning off the laptop or other tasks that you'll see inside. And to start off, we talk to this person right here, which tells you to conserve your energy. And to do that, you go inside your house here, and you're prompted with the first task that you have to do, or I guess first two tasks, which is first turning off the laptop and then turning off the light switches. And to turn off the light switches, you just have to interact with them, and you just have to go around interacting and touching the electronics to turn them off. And once you do that, the wall opens up on the side, and you walk through, and you're supposed to turn off the TV now. And to turn off the TV, we made it so you have to grab the remote, and once you do that, it turns it off, and the next wall opens up where you have to avoid all the little cousins, as we tried to portray them as, and get to the fireplace to put it out the fire with the cup of water that's on top. And once we maneuver through these people here, we grab the cup of water, and once we do that, we throw it in the fire, and then we move on to the next section, which is the kitchen. And the kitchen, there's no really other task than turning off the light, but once you do turn off the light, another section opens where you're prompted with the same person as before, thanking you for conserving your energy and helping out to stop the climate crisis. And then once you continue through the door here, you enter your bedroom. And once you're in your bedroom, you're prompted with another text that says you may now rest easy, knowing you've done your part. But if you want, we added an extra light there that you could turn off. And once you do that, a side opens up in the back and you're able to see facts directly taken from the SDG website, which tells you info about consumption that's being used. Like, for example, that the world has an 85.9 billion ton global resource footprint as of 2017. And that's just one of the few facts we decided to put up there to not just meant to be entertaining, but to also inform people what to do and how impactful their decision is.
Yeah, and we made this on. First, we started this by going on Mural and making a storyboard of what we wanted to do, or like how we wanted to portray to conserve your energy. And some of the things we added on Mural we couldn't do on the app Zoe. Like for instance, like with the little cousins, we wanted to be entertaining, so the user like wants to keep playing and everything. And we wanted the cousins to like turn off the lights or turn on the lights when you would turn them off to add like a little challenge, but we couldn't do that. But it ended up working out in the end because it's still pretty funny just to walk through and avoiding your little cousins. And yeah.
Yeah, like Isaiah said, we use virtual reality to bring this to life. And the reason why we made it in more of this format is to sort of raise awareness to how easy it is, but also providing an entertaining experience for the person who's playing the game. So the person playing the game can easily just put on their headset, walk around in their house, and turning off various like light switches or electronics, and making it seem and show how simple it is. And the fact is that like this is really simple to fix, and if it starts small, it could slowly build up, and more people do it, and in turn, it helps the climate crisis as a whole. And one of the main things we wanted to accomplish here was, like Isaiah said, like the entertaining part, but we also wanted to showcase an everyday solution to this problem. And we wanted to show how easy it is, basically. And yeah, that's our game that we have made. Um,
Reflecting back on this, I feel like I thought I wouldn't be able to do an interaction like this, like with coding, because I'm not really the best coder, or not really knowing a lot of coding at all, to be honest. And then I realized that we use the app Zoe, and this was like so much easier since we didn't have to write a single line of code to add any of the assets or interactions placed in the simulation.
Yeah, and I think the way that we figured out how to do those things were like really easy, but also sort of fun and entertaining to learn. And something that I reflect on is that like I used to think that design thinking for the future was a big problem, or not really a big problem, but that it'll be difficult to do because how can you predict something that would happen hundreds of years down the line? And the way that we were able to look at that was with an activity of looking back into our ancestors' past, like our father's father's father and or mother's mother's mother. And once we did that, we were able to see how, or I guess grab a taste of what it might have felt to be in that scenario and think, what would I want for my future? And or like my son's future or son's and so on. And it gave me that perspective on just looking forward, not with a clear goal in mind, but also doing whatever I can to help, not just like my family, but the world itself. And I feel like that process as a whole made me learn a lot.
Yeah, that's our presentation. We hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you, Isaiah and Damien. Up next, we have group number 3.
Hello, my name is Efrain Gonzalez,
My name is Eli Ruiz.
and today we want to present to you our experience that we made in Zoe. And this experience, we try to visualize how one in their own household could help the climate crisis and slow it down. just in their own households. So we really want to show how easy it could be to just do your part. So I'm gonna screen share the video now of our gameplay.
Before Ephraim plays the video, I just want to talk a little bit about what we worked on during the deep dive. In our deep dive, we researched climate crisis and found solutions to it. And me and my partner solution, the one we came up with, was based upon the UN goal, climate action, and it's to support green businesses. Our goal that we came up with is to support green businesses. Now, we were also challenged to create a VR experience that would help express that, through software. And what we're about to present to you is a user-friendly manner in a user-friendly manner game or walkthrough that shows you how and why you should support green businesses, because that'll help the environment immensely.
So in this experience, we start off with the neighborhood, and around the atmosphere, we place some smog clouds to show some of the negative side effects of climate crisis that we're in. So with these smog clouds, they were a visual representation of the bad things that can happen when you don't always use clean energy devices as much as you can, and then you just disregard stuff, and it just tries to give the user a like a better sight of how bad things can be, but how you can help them as well. So when we start going into the house, you can see on the left hand side there, we have our solar pad where we will be installing the solar panels. And our first idea was to put them on the roof, but we thought that if they were on the roof, the user couldn't really see what was going on. So we made a solar panel on the left-hand side that will be powering the house. So the user in the experience can actually see what's going on, how they're being installed after you complete all the tasks inside. So then you're gonna walk into the house right now, into your house. Then you are greeted with a tablet that gives you information about the climate crisis and how you can help. It tells you about the environment outside your neighborhood, and how you using clean energy devices in your house will help clean up the environment, and it'll give you a solar panel for every clean energy device you use. So that the goal in the end is to fill up your pad of solar panels and get rid of all the smog clouds in the sky. So you go around using all the devices using. You can use the TV. And all these are interactions that each one will give you a solar panel and get rid of one smog cloud. And then once your solar panels are filled and the smog clouds are all gone, that's when the user knows that the experience is done and he won the game. You go to the washing machine, the washer and dry. And then when you step outside, you're greeted with solar panels on your pad and clear skies. And to reflect back on what I learned about, one of the highlights that I had was talking to the UN member when we were tasked to ask them a question about a certain that we would want to come up with. So for my personal question was economically, how much would it take economically for like on the people, and if it would be expensive or not. So I really wanted to dig a little bit deeper into that. So with our research that we did with Eli, we found that over the last 20 years, the cost of solar energy has dropped by 90%. And in around 2030, the year 2030, it's estimated to drop another 20%. So we're seeing that the clean energy is getting easier and more cost efficient to use over the years, which is going to be better for people like us. And then cities as well that would like to power the big businesses that use a lot of electricity with more cleaner cleaner sources of energy. And we learned a lot about this stuff with research that we did with Eli and I. And yeah, I really had a lot of making this experience, especially because these video games, although they may just seem as games to most people, it really gives a better glance, especially to the future generations, because this is the world that we're passing down to them. So if we keep disregarding this and not paying any attention to climate crisis, we're just gonna keep giving them the worst of it. So I really made this. I really try to like think about it that way when making this.
To reflect on what I worked on, like personally, I know that I learned the seriousness of climate change during this deep dive, and that's why I now refer to it as climate crisis instead of climate change. I used to think that climate crisis affects only the future generations, but in fact, it actually affects today's generations as well, through because um, it worsens like natural disasters. I found that out. That's something I never knew before this deep dive, and that's something I'll never forget. Also, not only did I learn that it affects today's generations, but it also affects the poor communities in this world more than the richer communities, and that's such a unfair problem that needs to be fixed. Um, and also in my deep dive, I learned about a more efficient design process that when I was working with my partner Frayne, like the way we worked on our deep dive, like I just felt that it was so productive, and we made good use of our time and we learned a lot, and that's something that design process is something I'll take wherever I go in the workforce. But yeah.
Thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Next we have, yes, go ahead. Sorry, babe.
Hi. So I just saw John Harris joined us. So John, are you hi, welcome.
Hi. Sorry, I joined late here. I was in another mandatory meeting.
Yeah.
I'm John Harris, the Director of College and Career Readiness for the Downey Unified School District. And I just want to say thank you so much for allowing us to share in your celebrations of learning and the demonstration of the projects that you worked on in the handful of weeks, these past few weeks. Kawaku, thank you so much for shepherding our students and guiding them through this process in AR and VR. We're really very grateful for your work with our students. And June, thank you for the support that comes from the BEA group in making this all possible. So I'm always careful to also mention an appreciation and gratitude to our Board of Education in the school district, because without their vision in pivoting from in-person internships to virtual internships, all of this would not have been possible without their vision and support, along with the superintendent, Dr. John Garcia. So we're very, very grateful to them for their support in moving forward on this. Really, really looking forward to seeing your projects as you present them in the next segments here. Thank you.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Liz. Go for it.
All right, up next we have group number 4.
Okay, hello. My name is John Terry,
And I'm Marcus Newman.
and today we're going to be presenting on our VR experience. So Marcus is going to lead us off here.
Okay, so we chose number 11 of our SDG goals, which is sustainable communities and cities. And what we first thought of is that cities use a lot of electricity, which means more fossil fuels are being burned. So we need cleaner alternatives to those, like solar panels and wind turbines. And since cities also have a lot of people, they use a lot of cars, and we need people to use buses, trains, walking, and bikes in order to reduce greenhouse gases.
Okay, and then building off what Marcus said, so at the beginning of our deep dive, we basically chose, or beginning of this project, basically we chose the UN goal that Marcus talked about. And then we then took that to defining a problem using the design process, which we had been going over in the past 2 weeks that we had spent just going over it and doing practices of it. So after going through the design process, we realized that we're going to use the design process in our project. And so we originally started defining the problem. So we saw that the problem was that communities are not sustainable. They use things such as like, there's a lot of cars, there's trash a lot of the times, and we decided that something needed to change. And we dug deeper and realized that air pollution is also a very big problem. So that was the problem we decided to solve. Specifically, our question was like, how can we limit air pollution in urban settlements and specifically suburbs? So we then took that idea and made it into our presentation on a mural board, which was originally very complex, to say the least. And then after being exposed to Zoe, we realized that we would need to like lessen what we wanted to do. And then, so as I mentioned, we used Zoe to create our presentation, which I'm going to show you right now.
Okay, so our goal was to show how small actions would be able to change the environment. So in the beginning, the user is shown some facts about climate change after touching some of the wildlife. And the user starts out in like the forest to see how clean it is, that there's not much pollution. And the interactions are pretty basic. They only use touch and visibility. And the texts are invisible by default, but after being touched, the wildlife being touched, it will pop up. And in the next area, it shows some houses with trash on the ground. And the user is tasked to pick up the trash. And in doing so, they will see more facts about climate change.
So our idea behind this was basically, so as you can see here, the user was throwing away trash. And then once we get to the end, you'll see that something appears when the user is finished throwing all the trash away. So our idea behind this was basically that we wanted to have the user like physically picking up trash to show that they can beautify their own environment in their city or suburb, and to show them like what they could do to basically make it less polluted and such. And then after the user puts the final piece of waste in the trash, they're then prompted to go to this car. And then after this car, the star of our experience shows up. So we have Lucy the monkey here. Lucy the monkey represents our idea of our UN goal that we want to create a sustainable community. And Lucy here is here to help us do so by offering us various solutions and giving us some facts about them, as you'll see here in a little bit. So creating this interactions and experience, we use things like changes in visibility, having things be invisible by default, and having them appear after the user interacts with them. And here you can see that the user is just going around reading facts about various things that they can use in their like home and such to improve the environment, as well as reduce greenhouse gases, which was also very important since that is a very big leading cause of climate change and what I now know is the climate crisis. And then after reading the recycling part, the user will then see the final city, which is purposely made to look a lot cleaner. As you can see here, it looks much more clean than what we started off with. There's no more trash. As you can see, the user picked it all up. And I also use the renewable energy sources, including the wind turbines and the solar panels.
Right.
So yeah, my bad. There you
right.
go.
So looking back in the past few weeks and being able to work in this VR internship, it helped me learn a lot about climate change being more of a crisis. Because at first I thought it was just a rise in temperature, just the basic things. But I see now makes the air a lot more polluted, and it affects all life on Earth, not just ours. And I believe we were able to show how the small habits can change the environment. And it was a new experience for me to work on 3D modeling in VR because I had never had any experience with 3D modeling and VR. And it has helped me learn a lot more about working as a partners and how things would work in a work setting rather than just a school setting.
And then for me to reflect on what I've done in the past internship, I enjoy the experience a lot. I'm very happy that I was able to obtain it. Thank you. So specifically, thank you, John, for giving me this experience. And like I've learned so much about just working in a work environment, how it's different from what I'm used to, like school. Like in school, you're really told like, hey, here's your teacher. The teacher's gonna teach you everything you need to know, and then here's a test. In the work environment, it's more like, here's a teacher, they'll help you, but they want you to learn yourself, right? So that was very different for me and very a new adjustment, which I personally liked more than the school environment. I also learned a lot of stuff just about climate change in general going through this project. I basically learned that climate change was, as Marcus said, not really a change in temperature. It's more of a crisis. It affects a lot of things around us. And I also learned, so previously I've had experience using VR and 3D modeling, but now that I've like actually like done it before, like I've just used VR to like play games and stuff. I used 3D modeling before on like my computer, but once I was like put into the experience, it's completely different. And I really just enjoyed the experience overall, and I'm really thankful for it.
Great, thank you so much, John and Marcus. Up next, we've got group number 5.
Yes, hello, my name is Pratham Patel.
And I'm Mateo Vergara.
Yes, so before we go into the game, we would like to talk about some of the process that we did from starting to the end, or when I say end, I mean like the solution and finishing the game. So from the starting, the mission that we chose was how can we ensure sustainable consumption and production pattern? And what we got out of that is that how can we make companies use less waste and use less harmful material? Because what I believe and what me and Matteo believe is that all this waste going into the oceans, and we are also burning them, and those burning gas are really are harming our earth. So from the problem that we got, we started with prototyping or thinking of like different solutions that we could come up with. So we had like 4 ideas. One that we could do by ourselves. One that how can we get government in this problem? Other one was that like a really expensive solution, and one of them is something that you could do tomorrow. And the one that we went was with the government solution. So I would also like Mateo to talk a bit more about our solution.
Yeah, so just an overview. We've been working on making a virtual experience that brings environmental awareness and demonstrates our solution that we've come up with using the program Zori. And our main goal through the user experience was to get them excited about making a positive impact while learning more about our solution and the climate crisis. So before we like informed anyone on the climate crisis and our solution, we had to do our own research. And our main research was really focused on how climate crisis was our climate crisis research was focused on how big industries and companies play a big role in it. Our reason for focusing on this mainly and putting it in our experience is because together it works very closely with both each other, us as consumers, and as well as how they responsibly manage their waste and emissions.
Yes.
And our target audience we were focusing on making people more aware, any type of people. So
Yeah.
it doesn't
So
matter. It doesn't matter
okay.
where you are
So
or how you
I'll
do
go.
it.
I'll go.
The
Sorry.
VR allows you to, show our experience.
Yeah, sorry about that interruption, but like yeah, adding a bit more on that, we were basically targeting anyone and everyone who can spread as much awareness as we can with our solution. And also VR makes it really easier to spread this awareness because because some of the other options are other it takes time. It's some of them are really expensive, so we feel like VR is the best way to spread awareness about climate crisis that's going on right now. So I would also like Mateo to share our gameplay now. Okay, perfect. So what we thought of is that we're going to make a law enforcement office where there's going to be 2 floors. And basically this is the introduction that you're going to get to. There is like also like trash can givens, or there's like small comments that, oh, you always need to recycle, and basically like small missions that you could do also in real life, basically. So as you can see there, always recycle. There's also a good environment outside. um so after getting introduced to the office, you'll see this person talking about what you're going to see on the first floor, on the second floor, and basically like how companies affect us. So in the office or the first floor, our main goal was to give like a eco-friendly theme. And so as you can see on the walls, it says how can companies affect us? So a lot of companies don't recycle their products. Um, there's also um, there's also non-eco-friendly companies that are putting waste in the oceans and stuff. You could also see small conversation between the 2 people on how also we are also a way that we're also harming the company because we're buying from them, and their waste is going to different places that is not supposed to. You can see right here is that we need to take action right now, or we'll make the earth really bad and we'll need to do something really fast. So as you can see here, like different plants, different animal life is also affected by this harm, not only us. Um, but luckily our office or our law enforcement is going to use different rules, different actions against those company that are wasting material and putting them into the oceans.
So coming up to the second floor, it's really to give the user more information about our solution and about the organization and how they would manage waste and keep big industries and companies in check about their how they manage waste. So in the organization, there would be a team where each member has different skills. There would be an investigator who investigates on companies who don't waste appropriately, somebody who cooperates and creates solutions with the companies who are managing waste inappropriately, and a lawyer in case anything illegally happens, because most of the time companies illegally dump admissions or go over the limit that usually there's a restriction on. So here is more information that the user can read about of how companies are damaging the environment. Here the user gets a scenario of a situation the organization might deal with, and they have found out that the city power company has been using an unsustainable source, and they are given different options to fix this, or different ways the organization most likely would fix the issue. So those three tactics that they have are either suing the company for illegally dumping admissions, or going over the limit, buying off admissions from them, or negotiating a solution and giving them or managing their solutions in a better way. Here is kind of a conclusion and giving the user a more information about where they stand in the climate crisis, how they should remember how their choices and how they consume really affects the environment, and how they should go more green, consume from companies who manage their waste responsibly, be more eco-friendly, and stuff like that.
So that was basically our game, and hopefully our main goal worked, and our main goal was that positive impact on people, and bring and give like inspiration on start taking climate crisis seriously, and try your best to recycle, and also take action against those companies that are putting their waste on land and in oceans that are damaging our animals, waters, and also people.
Yeah, but throughout the whole process of making the project, it definitely allowed me to become more aware of the climate crisis and where we stand as consumers, and how industries and being a consumer ties into everything. Another thing that this internship has taught me was how a job experience and project management is. I was really shocked when I found out how unmicromanaged um, the project was, because you usually have a rubric at school and the teacher tells you how the finalized product should be. And I really love the creative control throughout the whole internship experience.
Yes, so for me, my reflection on the time period from starting to the end, I feel like I learned a lot of things, but the most important thing that I learned would be the design process. I originally knew what design process is, but this time how we use the design process really differently. This time was more creative, more interesting, and it was really on hand, and really fun. So like finding different solutions, like asking why this problem, why that happened, why that, it brought like a new idea in my head about like design process, on how creative and fun it would be. Like now I personally feel like I could solve any kind of problem using this idea from this experience. And yes, and again I would like to say thank you to Kwaku and Liz for um, giving us these ideas about design process.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Great. Thank you so much, Mateo and Pratham. And finally, we have our last group number 6.
Hi, my name is Ryan Diaz.
And my name is Vili Satelli.
And our job with our virtual experience was to actually spread awareness to the UN goal that we were tasked with, which was affordable and clean energy. And what our job with this our virtual experience is to share out how you can share and be able to contribute to your community. So I will be able to pull up the screen right now. So basically, what we were tasked to do with the mural storyboard and also with our problem, we wanted to make sure that we would give the message out that of we need to do something now of this climate crisis, because if we just leave it out to the future generations to actually try and solve these problems, that's not how society is going to progress. So we must actually do something right at this moment to try and help educate people on the matter.
So in the beginning of our playthrough, we take a look at these two fine gentlemen and basically tell you, oh, what's happening over there. And right here is the factory. This is where they're using stuff like oil and they're committing big pollution everywhere. And for our little characters, we decided to use like characters that we would know, such as Mario and Luigi. And unfortunately, Mario and Luigi are the bad guys. And they're saying, oh, how easy it is to be rich just by making all this oil, and who cares about green energy? And as long as they have money in their pocket, they don't care.
So as we go to the next scene with the whiteboard, you're actually given two options with that we created using Zoe's interactions. So thanks to Sketchfab and some design constraints that we were tasked to do, we created posters that were able to choose two different sides. Well, on the left side, you would have the polluted energy side, the one that would promote the factories and actually promote polluted energy sources. And on the right side, we have the wind turbines as an example of promoting clean energy sources to help the community not suffer anymore. So as we can see, we made different interactions where if we put the negative poster first, we have a character icon speed up to us and actually say that, sorry, this isn't the right one. So the only way we can really progress the story is to have the right poster in our hand and interact with the box. As we do that, we have this character model that pops up and is forwarding us to a different aspect of the map. So we need to take the poster with us to educate more people on this matter. And if you notice, we have a really big scenery, and this was actually intentional because we want to have that type of big openness of a virtual world environment that we can show to the player. And because it's outside of the city, we want to show that it's not just everything's inside a building, it's actually everything's interactive outside where you see most people. So as you can see, we go up to a lady in this scene, and she's actually skeptical about the usefulness of renewable energy. Why should we actually promote and even care about this climate crisis, right? So our main idea is to educate them by putting the poster inside the box and then using interactions such as moving and making objects disappear and moving text boxes towards that same position. We're able to show information and statistics from actual reliable sources such as the UN and government websites. So as we go to the next player model, we would put our energy poster and be able to go to a different scene, as you can see later on, that will be able to interact with more people. So as we do that, this type of design was actually also intentional because we wanted to simulate an experience of the people having different opinions on the matter. So of course you would always have that person who actually doesn't support renewable energy, someone who does, someone who's confused, and someone who is also confused. So as long as we put the energy poster inside the box to show, represent that we're actually educating them, their responses change and they change to a positive matter. So as we go to the next scene, Billy will explain what happened and why we chose what we chose.
All right, so as you saw earlier, there was that little character that told us, hey, those bad guys are in the corner, getting cornered. As you can see, Mario and Luigi are not having a great time. There's these protesters telling, hey, we don't want this factory, we need to take it down, and we need to put more clean, reusable energies. And they say, they still don't care. They're just simple fools, tree huggers and all that. So we got to put our poster, that our original main idea, and boom, they're gone. There's like, oh no, there's too much um, protesting, and they don't like that, and they have to leave immediately. And so as we look, they're all good job. We finally got rid of them. Now we could go and make our world a little bit cleaner.
So then with the next scene, we're able to simulate like a metaphorical analogy where we're able to throw the polluted energy into the trash to show that we're actually supporting renewable energy sources and being able to educate. After we put the polluted energy into the trash can, we have a scenery that we're able to see where now the factory that was once there is now gone with and replaced with wind turbines that insinuate renewable and clean energy sources. So again, the whole point was to try and spread awareness and educate yourself on climate crisis because it isn't something to joke about. So yeah, Billy, would you explain?
My reflections, yes. So for my reflections over these past few weeks of our deep dive was definitely on global warming. Before this deep dive, I realized that what I believed was global warming was just about, oh, it's too hot, oh, you gotta turn off your lights and stuff like that. But after this deep dive, I now realize that it goes way more specific than that. How much oil that people use, if you're recycling, if you're using up too much energy. And it really puts a spotlight for clean energy. Not many people, especially in third world countries, they don't have enough energy for their homes. They're not having clean energy for their.
So if I were to say one thing about the reflection and one thing that I actually like really enjoyed about the whole process with Kawaku, Elizabeth, Marcella, and all the other guest speakers is about the design process. And I've actually known about the design process since since I've been a member of the robotics club from my middle school and high school. But this actually reaffirms um, my belief that design process should be everywhere and design process not just something that is only in one aspect that of design, right? So we're really just like robotics, what they do is that they stress the design process a lot, which is what Kawaku has really like put into us. The idea that we should be able to define the problem, generate concepts that we want to do, test out solutions, see what's actually going on and the problem with find the faults in our actual design, get feedback, and then be able to do the process over and over and over again. And that's something that I really appreciate because I thought that we could only that I was only familiar with design process in robotics, but now I have another example to show me like that I was actually able to practice the design process somewhere else, especially in a work environment.
Great. Thank you so much, Ryan and Lily. I think at this time we've got some questions for all the interns. Or does anybody have questions for the interns?
I have a question. So I'm curious, what surprised you about you during this internship?
If I'm allowed to like speak on the matter. So one thing that actually surprised me about this internship was actually the whole design process because again, like I've mentioned in my reflection, one thing that I was able to realize and reaffirm my belief was the idea that we should always generate concepts and define a problem because you can't just get straight into the solutions, right? If you do that, then you're not actually like trying to solve the problem. You're just trying to put out solutions into the world without actually like, giving an effort to change something. However, with this whole design, with this whole deep dive, I'm able to realize that I can actually change something in the world by going through the design process. And that's something I never really took into mind until I was actually building my project when I was doing research on climate change, climate crisis, and clean and affordable energy. Because that's something that I never realized was an actual problem until I actually looked into it. And I'm glad that I was able to have the opportunity to be able to actually do something about climate crisis.
For me, it's although I did learn a lot of design skills, just like Ryan said. You learned about the design process, you implemented it in somewhere that's not an engineering field. I also took away a lot of communication skills from this and leadership skills. Because definitely for communication skills, working in a part with a partner and on a project that has a deadline, we actually were able to get a lot of communication and actually learning how to use the feedback that other people give me to improve my design and be able to keep working through this iterative process, and keep building solutions that are even better than the previous ones. Is something that I've really learned working on this project. And it all starts with effective communication and also, a trustworthy environment in the first place, because you don't want people judging you and your solution, because you want constructive feedback, not just judgmental feedback, right?
For me, similar to them both, like sort of the combination of their ideas. Um, I learned a lot, like about design thinking and about communication and how those two interact with one another, and how in order to find a solution, you have to actually improvise a lot, and you have to take feedback from other people and sort of admit to your own mistakes, and you have to grow. And in order to grow, you need to talk to other people, you need to get feedback, and that's the only way you're really gonna like sort of improve your design and find the solution that you're looking for. And that's just something I realized from this internship.
Adding to what Damien said, I can, in this internship, we or most of us kind of went in blind, not being used to a lot of the program or working with VR. So, like Damien said, finding those solutions, giving, going and finding ways to go around the problems that may have occurred that weren't originally planned, or may have stopped what you originally planned, and finding ways to solve around that and ending up with something great, or not probably ended up with a product that probably you didn't have originally in mind. So becoming a creative thinker definitely was something that I took from this internship.
To build off what Mateo was saying about being like a creative thinker and using the design process, I feel like that's also what surprised me and basically it came out to me the most, because in my engineering classes, I'm really like trained just to design process, define the problem, generate concepts, prototype, like. And when it came to this project, like it really was just like a different view, but also like it was familiar. Like I had a familiarity with what I was doing, and I feel like that just helped me like just be more, being able to understand the project more, being able to do more in the project.
Yes, so adding on to what John said about learning like different skills and bringing it into the project, I could definitely agree with that, because like now I also have like a different opinion on the design process, because the first one that I learned was it was just straightforward, like there is no like really interacting between it. But I feel like this time like it really changed my mind thinking about the design process, on how fun and interactive and creative it can be. And also like using different softwares like Zoe, like Tinkercad. I could bring my skills forward and probably know a lot more than someone that never used Zoe or never used Tinkercad. So I feel like there's a lot of skills that I personally learned from this internship.
Would anyone else like to add some thoughts?
No, I'm just curious. Like, June, do you have any other questions for us? Because I know this whole VR is all new.
Right. So Yeah, I was actually curious about how many of you actually have worked with a headset before? If you want to maybe show, all right, just one of you, two of you. So for the rest of you, could you say a little bit more about what that was like, what it was like to use the Oculus 2 and then to do it collaboratively with people virtually, because that's a whole nother piece. So if you want to share a little bit about your experience with that.
It's kind of funny really because it's like we're working in virtual reality virtually. So like we couldn't really like do it in person. However, like, you know, I feel like if I were to do this again, that's something that I would like to have like that in-person experience because I feel like if it was virtual, like, you know, a lot of people would be exhausted going into the Zoom meetings because of, you know, of course, Zoom fatigue and, you know, those types of aspects. So when I was working with the Oculus, like I actually kind of had like motion sickness, like if I was like in like a car ride. However, like it's I started to get used to it more because, you know, with working with Oculus and being able to play around with VR for the first time, like it was like kind of like me going on a roller coaster. It was kind of fun, like to go through that whole experience.
Yeah, definitely. Just like Ryan said, the first time I put on the headset, it was like a completely different world in there. Like but it felt so real. You know, it's like it's so weird. It's like I'm sitting here in my chair in my room, but when I'm putting on the headset, I'm in a completely different environment. I completely lose touch with reality, and it's just like I'm in a whole new world in there. And it was really great working as well with my partner Adrian. He did a great job, and I think we both did a great job collaborating with each other and actually communicating so that we can get the project done really quickly and get certain parts done really quickly. So not just the VR aspect, but also collaboration aspect. I love collaborating with people, and it was just a great experience overall.
Yes, yeah, so I would also like to like go a bit more into that. So like what I believe is that something that we can't do real life, we could do in VR. So as I said, like there are some stuff that we personally can't do that because there are a lot of reasons behind it, like it's too expensive, it's not with the government, there's like different problems, and I believe that VR gives you that freedom of doing anything. And I think using VR and solving the problem for climate crisis, it's a really good combination because because you could because you have the freedom to do anything, and spreading the awareness about this is really important because we don't want this to get worse. So for that reason, I feel like VR really gives you that like big world, like another world basically. And all the interactions are also really really good. So I feel like VR is a really good way to spread awareness.
I know in some of your presentations, I think it might have been Isaiah who said this, the idea of coming into this deep dive with the fear of not being a coder, and then how you would accomplish, what we were asking you to accomplish. Um, it'd be great maybe if some of you could talk about the process of using Zoe to create things that are so realistic, but so quickly. Because typically, for those of you who've used VR before, there is a lot more involved as far as the coding and stuff. And so what that meant, what that felt like, what that meant to you to be able to produce something essentially in 2 weeks that looks as professional as it looks.
If you don't mind, you know, I keep volunteering and asking the questions, answering the questions or anything, but I kind of like really like enjoy the experience. I want to like answer like everything I possibly can. So actually, like I know how to code and like I'm a programmer. I've been like doing like code for like a couple of years. So I kind of went to the internship kind of thinking like, oh, like when I heard Zoe for the first, like, oh, maybe we can actually like try and code something or, you know, have that type of experience because, you know, I wasn't familiar with Zoe at all. However, once I was thrown into like the whole experience, like where we never got to code, it kind of surprised me, but it was in a way that like it was another like new experience for me because I'm able to actually like create something and do interactions within the app without having to code anything. And I would imagine that for people who don't know how to code, that's like really like and I guess like empowering in a way because now they're able to do the same thing a coder can do, but without the whole like typing in commands, functions, all the syntax and a certain programming language. So I thought that like that was really cool from a different perspective.
To offer like kind of an opposite perspective of Ryan. So coming into this, I've had experience like 3D modeling using BIM software, stuff like that. So like it's not my first like time 3D modeling, but also putting on the VR headset and like getting in that environment, it's literally like a different experience. Like when you're 3D modeling, you're creating a part that's just looked at through at a computer screen. You really can only look at it like through your computer screen. But then I put the headset on and I'm like, I'm walking around. I can look around. There's like an endless environment. It's just very completely different. And I really enjoyed that about the internship.
I thank both of you guys, and also a shout out to Emily and Sylvan and Leah, their baby. I know that they're watching today, and I'm sure they appreciate the kind words. I know that we've gone a little bit over June, so I know it's okay. I know because
I
I know.
actually had one more question, if that's okay with the group, because so I'm just curious, before this internship, how many of you knew about the UN Sustainable Development Goals?
I took a class in freshman year, human geography, and I was taught about like the development goals and stuff like that. But and we learned about like all of them in general, but I never really took a deep dive into one specific one, and this gave me the opportunity to do so, sort of find a major problem there and sort of find solutions for it, which I haven't done before. And I think this was a great opportunity for that.
And now that you do know about them, have you shared that with others? Or what do they mean to you now?
I've been able to like talk more with like my parents about like stuff like this and like sort of bring up stuff that maybe they didn't know, and it's like just been better conversations, I guess, about that kind of stuff.
I guess, yeah.
So
Oh, sorry. You want to go first?
yeah, thanks. So adding to what Damon said, the learning about the whole climate crisis through the internship definitely allowed me to be more vocal to people about the climate crisis because, you know, a lot of people knew about environmental change and stuff, but I didn't have enough knowledge specifically about it to really inform someone about the decisions they could make to really impact their role in the environment.
I was gonna say, going off of what Damien said, how he was able to like talk to this about his family, and because before, like, even if my family did know about the climate crisis, they would kind of always be like, "Oh yeah, we're all gonna die soon," kind of that aspect of it. But I was able, I'm able to bring up conversations. I was like, no, well, actually, there's ways we can solve the climate crisis before it gets into a point where we can't contain it anymore. So, like, if we start acting now, we can actually change the world for future generations. And so, being able to bring up conversations like that was a great. I was given that opportunity because of this internship.
Are there others of you who want to answer that question?
I was going to say the same thing.
So I mean, I could go. So so I knew about climate change and how it's affecting us, but like when we had the UN employee, or like when Shamira came in, she basically like gave us like a lot of information that we wouldn't see online, like that this is not a climate change anymore, it's a climate crisis, that if we don't make a change right now, then it's going to get worse and worse and worse, and basically affecting us, our future, our, yeah. So like I think also doing a lot of research, it's not only one thing, it's not only like plastic that's going to the thing, it's also us, that, or some people or some companies are also helping the waste to go in there. So I think like I definitely like spread news to like my family, my parents and everyone, and just giving them or inspiring them, because I think you have to be inspired first, and then you have to inspire other, to spread this news, because we need to work on this right now, or it will be a really disaster at the end.
Well, if I to like bring out like my opinion to like the conversation. So basically, I remember when we were doing like the whole design process thing, we would have four different solutions, or try to come out with four different design constraints, to solve our solution or to solve our problem. And one of them was to what you can do, what you can do to do something tomorrow. And that was what our virtual experience was, based off of what you can do tomorrow. And the idea that you're able to educate yourself on climate crisis, the consequences, how we can try and help, and the detrimental effect that will happen when we just leave it to the future generations, is what needs to be spread out into like different communities, because otherwise like people will be out in the dark, and it'll just be something that just automatically will just like you'll just hear in the news, breaking news, like climate crisis has automatically reached to us and everything, and that's not a type of situation we want to occur. So we want to try and avoid that as much as possible, and being able to educate yourself on, um, even like for and climate crisis for just a couple of minutes, and looking up at like research from the UN is very important.
Yeah, thanks for that. Anyone else want to add? Well, I wanted to thank each and every one of you for participating in this internship, for your commitment to the projects, to just all of the feedback you've been giving us every day, every week in the weekly reflections. And of course, you know we have a final reflection for you. So that's going to come soon now that you've completed your showcase. We appreciate it. And Liz and Kwaku, thank you, thank you, thank you. We did this last year, and we're so happy that you came back this year to host a deep dive. John, do you have any parting words for us?
Just another thank you to Liz and Kwaku for your guidance and support of our students over these last few weeks. It's extremely evident that that they have learned a lot in these weeks of working with you, and they will not they will not forget the contribution that you've made to their learning in these few weeks into their adult life, I'm sure. So thank you. We are very grateful of your contribution in this regard.
And for our interns, please know that all of us are committed to staying connected with you. Please do know that this is something we want to stay in touch with you. Please connect on LinkedIn. Please just let us know how you're doing. We have certainly been references for college applications, for future job. I have definitely been a reference for when you apply for jobs. So definitely include this in your resume, because this is a paid internship, and it's something to really note for when you are doing the next step in your journey. So I just wanted to congratulate each and every one of you for sticking with it, for completing, for doing the showcase. And we're going to be celebrating tomorrow. And I wanted to say to everyone who's been watching on YouTube, this is our last showcase for this week. We have another showcase on Tuesday, and then yes, that will be the internship for Downey Unified. Our last showcase is Tuesday, August 3rd, and the time I'm going to tell you is August 3rd, and it is at 10 a.m. Pacific time. So please, those of you who are around, it's going to be Fresh Films. They've been a partner with us. And so your colleagues at Fresh Films will be showcasing what they created during their deep dive. So that's on Tuesday, August 3rd at 10 a.m. And for everyone here for the AR VR group and everyone watching, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you later. I'm going to turn off hold on.
Can I add one more thing? Can I add one more thing before you turn it off? So it's really, really quickly, I just want to say it's the interns. I'm not sure if I've said it enough, but I'm going to speak a little bit on Liz's behalf. As people who've been in the classroom for a long period of time, it is so amazing to be able to engage in an experience like this. And for everything that you guys were saying that you gained from this, we gain so much more. I mean, you know, obviously everybody gets paid a little bit to be here, but more importantly, you sort of reaffirm almost like career decisions that we've made to be able to be part of a process like this with all of you. So I wanted to say thank you to all of you guys for what you've given us over the past month. I want to, although she's not here, I want to honor Marcella for all the work that she put in to help keep us all connected and to share and to jump in if someone was running late to help partner with all of you. And then finally, last but not least, I really want to thank Liz. I know that my name is on the name for the deep dive, but none of this happens without Liz, whether it is the planning of all the things that you guys experienced, or her amazing openers, and even pushing you guys to be more artistic and taking you out of your comfort zones. I just wanted to say that really quickly. And the biggest focus is on all of you as interns and what you have given all of us as facilitators. So thank you for your time, your energy, and your creativity. And John, thanks for making this happen again. You're number 2, buddy. Let's keep it going.
Thanks, Kwaku.
All right, now I will say goodbye on